walks to the door and he knocks lightly at the door. Father Abraham opens up the door and he stood spellbound. And he said, Sarah, come here just a moment. Isn't that the same one that you baked the cakes for? Isn't that the one that sat under the oak tree that day? Sarah said, that's the one that had his back turned to the tent, and he perceived my thought when I laughed at what he said. He said, children, I've come to take you now. I've conquered that horrible thing called sin. And just then, right over behind his shoulder, Abraham's shoulder, and Sarah standing looking, I can see another head moving up. And it was perhaps an elderly-like man. And he looked over the shoulder of Abraham, and he too stood spellbound. It was the prophet Daniel. He said, that's that stone that I saw cut out of the mountain without hands that would destroy the kingdoms of the world. Someone come running. Who was it? It was that prophet Ezekiel. He looked over the shoulder of the prophet and he said, as he stood spellbound, there is the wheel in the middle of the wheel that I saw turning way up in the middle of the air. Each one had seen him in the form that they preached of him in. Oh, what will it be when we see him as the rose of Sharon, as the lily of the valley, as the fairest of 10,000s to my soul? What will he be? Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, the root and the offspring of David, the bright and the morning star. And as they went out, he conquered the grave. And then there was a great mist hanging over the earth yet. So he had to conquer that mist of sin, that mist of stench of the sins of the people. And with his own blood, his vesture dipped in blood, he conquered the atmospheres above. Blessed be his holy name. He cut the fogs of hell from place to place until he cut a hole through the sky that Adam's lost children could pray through to the victory. He conquered the atmospheres. He conquered sin. He conquered death. He conquered hell. And he rose triumphantly. On beyond the moon and stars he went with the Old Testament saints. Oh, what a victorious march that must have been. With the real conqueror. After a while, they come in sight of that glorious city. Abraham says to Sarah, come here, honey. And she gets Isaac and comes along. Isaac gets Jacob, Jacob gets Joseph. And he said, that's that city that Daddy saw, whose builder and maker is God. I walked about on the earth looking for a city to come whose builder and maker was God, and now I'm coming near the gates. Although the great men that they were, they could not conquer it. It taken one to come down to do the conquering. Though Abraham conquered difficulties, Isaac and Jacob and Joseph, But there was only one who could conquer sin. That was him, the Lord Jesus. And as they seen the light from the inside the city, and the great pearly gates a shining, Jesus in the forefront marching on, and the angels begin to ascend to the top of the buildings, and they look coming, and the Old Testament saints cried out, "Open up ye everlasting gates, and be ye open, and let the King of glory come in, the mighty conqueror." And the angels screamed back and said, "Who is this King of glory?" And the Old Testament saints cried out, "The Lord of hosts, mighty in battle." And the gates come open, and he placed at the gate the old rugged cross, that every man or woman ever comes into that gate will have to bow before that cross and recognize him as a mighty conqueror.